Gun stores across America used to serve a predictable crowd. Rural men, hunters, long-time collectors, but not anymore. Today, the lines stretch out the door, and the faces are different. You'll see suburban mums in yoga pants, software developers still wearing their company lanyards, retirees who once swore they'd never own a firearm, immigrants who just passed their citizenship test, now standing at the counter holding their very first pistol. This isn't just about hobbyists or collectors. It's not even just about crime. It's about fear of political unrest, social collapse, and the sinking feeling that no one's coming to help when things go wrong. In this video, we're diving into the numbers, the motivations, and the cultural shift behind the biggest surge in gun ownership America has ever seen. And if you think this is just another temporary panic spike, you're about to be surprised, because this time, it's not just a phase, it's a warning. Gun stores in America have undergone a quiet revolution. Walk into one today, and the crowd looks nothing like it did a decade ago. Gone are the days when the typical customer fit the mold of a rural middle-aged man in a flannel shirt. In his place, a line that now includes suburban mums in yoga pants, first-generation immigrants, Black and Asian professionals, and 20-something tech workers still wearing their office badges. The change isn't just anecdotal, it's statistical. In 2020 alone, more than 22.3 million Americans became gun owners for the first time. And it didn't stop there. Each year since has brought millions more who never imagined they'd walk into a gun store, fill out a background check, and take home a firearm. These aren't your typical gun people. They're everyday citizens who once thought gun ownership was for someone else, until something shifted. Whether it was civil unrest, rising crime, or simply the realization that help might not arrive in time, they've made the decision to take responsibility for their own safety. This wave of new gun owners is reshaping the firearm landscape in America, and it's only just begun. This surge in gun ownership isn't just about rising crime statistics or viral videos of carjackings. Beneath it all lies a deeper, more unsettling emotion: fear. It's the fear of a system breaking down, of protests turning violent, of cities burning on live news feeds, of political tension snapping into chaos. It's the unease parents feel watching their child's college campus become a battleground, or the anxiety of homeowners who wonder if emergency services will even show up when it counts. According to recent data, nearly a quarter of all new gun buyers, over 5 million people since 2020, say they were motivated by concerns over political violence. These aren't militia members or conspiracy theorists. They're school teachers, small business owners, and young professionals. They're people who voted for tighter gun control just a few years ago, now standing in line to buy their first pistol. Add to that another million buyers driven by fear of racial violence. Families of color who feel they can no longer wait for the system to protect them. What we're seeing isn't a passing panic. It's a fundamental shift in mindset. A growing number of Americans now view a firearm not as a political statement, but as a last line of defense in a country that feels increasingly fragile. And that fear? It's bipartisan, it's personal, and it's pushing millions to take matters into their own hands. Thoughtful. What used to be the realm of survivalists and prepper forums is now hitting the mainstream. Emphatic. The concept of self-reliance, once viewed as fringe, is being embraced by people in office parks, apartment buildings, and cul-de-sacs. Surprised. In 2023 alone, Americans bought over 15 million firearms. Emphatic. That's more than enough to equip the 10 largest armies in the world. Twice. Thoughtful. And 1 out of every 4 of those purchases went to someone who had never owned a gun before. Observational. But it's not just guns. Observational. Sales of safes, red dot optics, concealed carry holsters, body armor, and even emergency food rations are booming. Observational. YouTube is flooded with videos on urban bug-out bags, apartment defense setups, and how to hide a rifle in a yoga mat bag. Matter-of-fact, ammo shelves are often picked clean within hours of restocking. Assertive. This isn't panic, it's preparation. Calm, quiet, methodical, and widespread. Serious. People are absorbing the message loud and clear. You are your own first responder. Analytical. The shift is so pronounced that it's reshaping entire industries, from firearm training to insurance underwriting. Surprised. And here's what's most telling. It's not just older rural men filling these classes. Observational. It's nurses, Uber drivers, college students, and grandmothers who've never held a gun before, but now carry daily. Reflective. This new culture of readiness isn't about paranoia, somber. It's about being realistic in a country where institutional trust is eroding, and the headlines keep getting darker. For decades, gun politics in America followed a predictable script. Rural conservatives supported gun rights, while urban liberals pushed for control. But in the aftermath of 2020, that script has been torn up. Today, the most vocal opponents of new gun restrictions aren't always who you'd expect. Minority groups, women and progressive city dwellers, once considered natural allies of the gun control movement, are showing up in force at legislative hearings, town halls, and training courses. In states like Virginia and Washington, it's not uncommon to see immigrant parents and first-generation citizens testifying against magazine bans and waiting periods. These are people who once supported restrictive policies until the threat felt personal. Asian Americans rattled by hate crimes. Black families burned by slow emergency response during riots. LGBTQ+ communities feeling vulnerable amid political tensions. Many now view firearms not as political statements, but as tools of equalization, ways to take back control in a world that feels increasingly unstable. The numbers back it up. Permit applications among women have doubled in some states. LGBTQ+ gun groups are thriving on social media. Organizations like the National African American Gun Association have seen explosive growth, and this shift is fracturing old alliances. The traditional gun control narrative, that certain communities want fewer guns, no longer holds up when those very communities are flooding gun stores and joining range clubs. Even in progressive cities, concealed carry classes are filling with people who once voted for politicians promising stricter gun laws. Now they're quietly buying Glocks and practicing dry fire drills in studio apartments. What we're witnessing isn't just a cultural shift, it's a realignment. The idea that gun rights only matter to one demographic is dead, and that reality is rewriting how both sides approach the future of firearm legislation. America has seen spikes in gun sales before, after mass shootings, during political elections, even in the wake of natural disasters. But the current wave of firearm purchases? It's fundamentally different. What sets this surge apart isn't just the volume of guns being sold, though the numbers are staggering. It's the motivation. It's the mindset. And it's the moment in history that feels unlike anything before. In past buying sprees, gun sales were often fueled by fear of regulation, people rushing to beat potential bans. But today's buyers aren't necessarily reacting to a proposed law or a politician's speech. They're reacting to a deeper, more existential fear. Fear that the systems designed to protect them, law enforcement, government, community support, might not show up in time. Fear that unrest, violence, or even civil conflict could land on their doorstep without warning. Fear that no one is coming to help. And this isn't just a hunch. Polls show nearly 1 in 4 first-time buyers since 2020 cite fear of political violence as their main reason for purchasing a gun. That's not about hunting, sport shooting, or even traditional self-defense. That's preparation for something darker, something more chaotic. What's more, these new owners aren't just buying guns and leaving them in a drawer. They're taking training courses, joining online forums, watching YouTube breakdowns of red dots, dry fire drills, and concealed carry tactics. This is a generation of buyers that isn't just armed, they're becoming informed. That's why this surge is different. It's not a reaction to a single event. It's a growing sense that the future feels unstable and that being unprepared is no longer an option. This isn't panic, it's planning, and it's reshaping America's relationship with firearms from the ground up. Turn on the news, scroll your feed, or just listen in at the local coffee shop, and you'll hear it. Tension. Not just political division or economic anxiety, but a deeper, more personal unease. Americans are carrying something heavier than just opinions. They're carrying fear. The institutions that once gave people a sense of order, Congress, the courts, law enforcement, even local government, are seeing record-low trust ratings. When people stop believing the system will protect them, they start looking for protection on their own terms. That's why millions of Americans, many of them brand new to firearms, are quietly buying insurance policies in the form of 9mm pistols and AR-15s. These aren't necessarily political statements, they're personal calculations. And it cuts across all demographics. In the same suburban neighborhoods where people used to argue over recycling bins or lawn heights, you'll now find bug-out bags, quick-access gun safes, and training logs for defensive shooting drills. It's a quiet preparation, one that often goes unspoken but grows every day. What's fueling this edge? It's not just crime or social unrest. It's a feeling that the social fabric itself is fraying. Parents are worried not just about school safety, but about whether help will even arrive in time. Small business owners install security cameras and keep a firearm under the counter. Not because they're paranoid, but because they've seen what happens in viral videos of smash and grabs or protest-fueled riots. Even longtime gun owners are re-evaluating their setups, upgrading gear, adding range time, or training for scenarios they once thought unlikely. It's not about fantasy, it's about readiness. In short, America isn't panicking, but it's bracing. And in that atmosphere, gun ownership is no longer a fringe habit. It's becoming a mainstream reflex, not out of aggression, but out of caution. Because when the headlines feel like warnings and the future feels uncertain, more and more people would rather be ready than regretful. With tens of millions of new gun owners entering the fold, the stakes are higher than ever, and so is the responsibility. A firearm isn't just a purchase, it's a promise to handle deadly force with maturity, training, and self-control. But here's the reality. Many new owners are skipping the hard part. No safety class, no range time, no understanding of the four cardinal rules of gun handling. And that's not just dangerous, it's explosive. Negligent discharges don't care about good intentions. A loaded pistol in a sock drawer doesn't know whether you're a Democrat, a Republican, or just a worried parent who bought a gun just in case. Without training, that tool becomes a liability, not protection. That's why experienced gun owners can no longer afford to stay silent. The age of gatekeeping, mocking new shooters for bad grip or cheap gear, needs to end. What's needed now is mentorship. It starts with a conversation. Invite your neighbor to the range. Show them how to safely load, clear, and carry. Recommend instructors, safety gear, and best practices. If we care about the Second Amendment, or simply about public safety, then we need to care about the people holding the guns, not just the politics around them. Faith communities, neighborhood watch groups, even book clubs are starting to fill the gap. Women-only classes, senior-friendly instruction, youth firearms safety programs that treat guns with respect, not fear. This is what a responsible gun culture looks like: inclusive, educated, and prepared. Because the truth is this: the greatest threat to gun rights or to gun safety doesn't come from outside. It comes from inside, when untrained hands mishandle a weapon and tragedy makes the evening news. So if you're new to gun ownership, welcome. Now take the next step. Learn, train, practice, carry responsibly. And if you've been here a while, don't just nod. Step up. Share your knowledge. Be the reason someone else stays safe, stays legal, and stays ready. Because the real power of a firearm isn't in the caliber. It's in the mindset of the person holding it. So where does this leave us? We're living in a country where millions of people, many of whom once swore they'd never touch a gun, are now armed. Not out of hobby, not for sport, but because they no longer trust the world around them to stay stable, safe, or sane. Some are driven by crime, others by politics. Some are responding to rising racial tensions or fears of institutional collapse. But they're all reacting to one powerful emotion: uncertainty. And that uncertainty is transforming America. The old lines between a pro-gun and anti-gun are blurring. The same city that once voted to ban firearms now hosts full CCW classes every weekend. The same demographic that was once used to justify gun control is now waiting in line to buy their first pistol. This isn't just a political shift. It's cultural, it's personal, and it comes with consequences. More guns in more hands mean more opportunities for safety, for empowerment, for freedom, but also for accidents, for misjudgments, for conflict. Whether we like it or not, America is becoming a nation of armed civilians. The question is, are we prepared to handle that reality responsibly? Because owning a gun isn't a political statement. It's a personal commitment to training, to discipline, to maturity. The tools of defense can't replace the habits of restraint. In the end, this isn't a video about fear. It's about recognition. Recognition that we're entering a new chapter, that millions of Americans now believe the social contract is strained and that protecting themselves is no longer optional. So if you own a gun, or are thinking about it, this is your wake-up call. Know what you're doing. Teach others. Build a culture of confidence, not chaos. Because this isn't just about hardware. It's about who we become when we carry it. Stay sharp, stay grounded, and above all, stay responsible.